I'm Pamela J. Thomas, and I created this podcast to hold space for your next chapter. Let's take a breath and begin.
Welcome. Let's take a deep breath and exhale gently. You've just entered the pause. This is Soul Sync, a sacred place for women of color navigating the thresholds of identity, leadership, and life itself. I'm your host, Pamela J. Thomas. I'm a catalyst, wellness educator, and author of Women Don't Retire. And I have created this podcast just for you. Before we begin, I want to invite you to bring your whole self into this moment. Not the version of you that's perfectly composed, but the real one. The weary, curious, wondering, wise one. Yes, her. You're welcome here, exactly as you are. There's a moment I know deeply. It's that space between what has ended and what hasn't yet become. It's a moment of stillness that can feel like floating untethered, undefined. That's the space I call the sacred pause. It's not always comfortable, but it is holy. After years of leadership, caregiving, and showing up for everyone else, I reached a place where I could no longer hustle past the whisper of my own soul. It said, slow down, listen in, begin again, from within. I remember mornings where I'd sit in silence, unsure if I was wasting time or reclaiming it. I'd feel the ache of not being needed in the same ways, and also the relief of spaciousness in my life. That duality, the grief and the grace, was really the invitation to a new way of being. And that's what Soul Sync is about. It's about returning to the wisdom of your body, realigning your life with what matters the most, and rewriting your next chapter, not from pressure, but from presence and presence of mind. I created this show because I know what it feels like to be accomplished and exhausted, to be full of wisdom and still quietly wondering, what now? This space is for you if you're in a transition, if you've been holding everyone else but forgetting yourself, if you're feeling the stirrings of something sacred and undefined, this is your place to land. We're going to call this episode The Sacred Pause, because before we move forward, we must first learn to stop, to breathe, to listen. Let's begin right there. The world tells us to keep going, to push through. But what if the most powerful move that you could make is to pause? So many of us, especially as women of color, have built our lives around service, excellence, and responsibility. We've held titles, led teams, carried families, and shaped communities. And while we've celebrated for our strength, we're rarely given space to rest, to reimagine, to just simply be. Soul Sync was born from that tension, from the truth that we're not just leaders, we're souls. And when the title fades and the children are gone, when the job is done, what remains? That's the question that we hold gently here, not with urgency, not with pressure, but with reverence and appreciation for the moment that's upon us. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You just need to return to yourself. I spent decades in leadership as a financial educator, a wellness guide, and a spiritual teacher, but there came a point where even my purpose began to feel like pressure. I was helping others heal but neglecting my own rest, building programs but ignoring the quiet call inside me to slow down. And what I realized was this. I had at that point outgrown the structures that I once thrived in. Nothing was wrong, but something deeper was calling. I didn't need another goal. I needed some space to listen, space to feel, space to sync with my soul again. So I stepped away. And this podcast is actually part of that becoming. This show's for the woman who's done everything right and still longs for something that feels more real. It's for the woman who's at the top of her game, who secretly is quietly unraveling. It's for those of us who no longer want to be defined by roles or achievements. We want to be defined by joy, alignment, by soul. Each week, we'll share stories, conversations, and reflections around purpose, transition, healing, and legacy. Sometimes I'll guide some solo episodes. Other times I'll sit with incredible women. I've met so many over the past few years that have just inspired me forward with all of the things that I've been holding. But there's incredible women out there who've been crossing their own thresholds or at the brink of the threshold. And together we will pause. We will breathe and we'll return. Here's how each of these episodes will flow. We'll begin gently with breath, stillness, or a soul-stirring intention. Then we'll dive into either a solo reflection like this one or a conversation with another woman who's crossed a threshold. And as always, we'll end with a soul sync moment, a journal prompt, a breath, a body cue, something you can carry with you into your week. You can expect vulnerability, truth-telling, and the kind of honesty that doesn't rush to fix, but holds space for what's unfolding. This is not a podcast about productivity hacks or 5-step blueprints. It's about unlearning, remembering, and becoming. Whether you're in midlife, reimagining your purpose, or simply ready for a slower and deeper way of living, this space is for you. If you've been feeling out of sync with your life, or if you've been asking, who am I without the title, the schedule, the expectations? Or maybe you've been longing for a community that honors your wisdom and your softness, you belong here. We spent years doing, leading, giving. Soul Sync is a place to receive, to breathe. And after the breath, we rise, rooted in our own rhythm. You may not know the next step, and that's okay. Here, we honor the questions too. We make room for the mystery, that mystery that takes us into the space of becoming that which we were designed to be. That doesn't need to be rushed or named right away. That is an unfolding process.
What if retirement wasn't a finish line, but a sacred beginning? Women Don't Retire is a call to reimagine your next chapter with purpose, power, and joy. I share real stories, deep truths, and practical wisdom for women ready to lead, even after leaving the title behind. Available now on Kindle and Amazon. See the show notes for a link to get your copy today.
Let's close today with our first Soul Sync moment. Place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. Let's take a slow, deep breath in and let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your body know it's safe to soften. And as you breathe, ask yourself gently, what's being invited to rest? What part of me is quietly becoming? What truth am I finally ready to hear? Let these questions ripple through your body like waves. You don't need to chase the answers, you just need to listen. This episode is the beginning of something sacred. If it resonated, I invite you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a sister who's walking her own threshold. You can find me at PamelaJThomas.com or on Instagram at Pamela J. Thomas. See you soon.
Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Until next time, stay soft, stay grounded, and stay in sync with your soul. Subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone at their own threshold.
Before we close today, I want to linger here just a little longer. Because sometimes the pause we find in ourselves doesn't feel all that sacred. It feels confusing, even painful. Often it feels like a loss, like something's ending without a clear beginning in sight. But that space, that in-between space, it's not a void, it's a womb. It's the space where we're invited to become again, slowly, softly, and honestly. No rush, no timeline, no applause needed. The show was born from my own in-between, a moment when the world saw one version of me, but my soul was quietly asking for more. More rest, more truth, more spaciousness, more joy that wasn't earned but was embodied. And I know I'm not alone. You might be listening from your own in-between. Maybe you've already walked away from something, or maybe you're just starting to imagine the possibilities. Wherever you are, remember you're not behind, you're not broken, and you are not late. You are absolutely on time for your own becoming. And this podcast, it's not here to fix you. It's here to bear witness to your journey, to honor you, to remind you that your soul knows the way. So take this with you. You don't have to know where you're going yet. You just have to be willing to stop long enough to feel where you are now. This is the pause. This is the power. This is Soul Sync.
If this episode stirred something in your soul, if you felt seen, softened, or simply supported, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a review. Your words help other women, especially those at a sacred threshold, find this space. It only takes a minute, but your review becomes part of the ripple. Thank you for listening. Thank you for syncing with your soul.